Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. I wanted to share a little story about this family that has decided to visit me in my backyard. At first, they would just walk by and pass through, and you can see they have 3 little goslings, and they are just adorable. My best guess is they were a couple of weeks old at best, and I loved watching them speed along as they were listening to their parents. You couldn't really hear it in this video, but one of the parents would do this really strange guttural sound, and the babies would immediately respond and scamper off to the closest parent that called them. It was just adorable and important for their survival. Geese are always fascinating to me. I've admired how protective they are. They mate for life. And I've always noticed, and maybe you have too, when they're out in the middle of a field or at a pond, there's always one watching the flock, making sure everybody is safe while the rest of them eat. And there was no difference here either. It was usually the father or both. There's dad, and mom is in the back down at the bottom of the hill. She's definitely a little bit more timid than the dad, and it could be because she's been injured. There'll be another clip in the video where she will walk by and you can see a little bit of a kink in her neck. So she might have been injured by humans at some point. I'm not sure. But she's definitely the one who's going to be off in the shadows a little bit more often than dad. And he'll be the one that stands there and just watches the goslings eat. As I paint the parents in the picture, we'll watch the little goslings eat every single piece of seed out there in the grass. They just strip each strand with their little beaks. Some of them pull a little harder and they'll fall back in the grass. It's very cute. So as you're watching that, I'll talk about the paint colors I'm choosing to paint the geese. I've used burnt umber with a mix of ultramarine and just made some light washes initially for the bodies, and then I came back with a deeper color for the wings. I'm also using the same color for the neck initially, but then I'll come back in with a darker mix of the ultramarine, burnt umber, and I also mixed in a little bit of cad red to give it the black color. I don't use black in my palette, but I do, once in a while I'll use Payne's Gray, but not in this instance. I didn't need it because I had the mix, which ends up looking better because you have highlights in their neck that you just can't replicate with black. There's one little gosling in the front that is very alert and observant. He's looking over towards my dog who's in the window. She's trying really hard not to bark at them. We are in training. Listen carefully and you'll be able to hear Dad call at them. I really don't know what the signals are. They didn't really run, but they put their heads up. Maybe it was just an alert to stay close. Their little behinds are so cute. I probably should have painted those instead. And that's where Mom was most comfortable. She could still see her goslings, but I think she felt protected in the woods. I love how quickly they responded to Dad's call and got a little bit closer. As a parent, how many times have we had to say to our children, don't go too far, stay here in the yard? So I used Naples yellow for the body, and then came in with a little bit of the mixture I used on the parents of the burnt umber, but I mixed that with Naples yellow to lighten it up a little bit for the markings on their body. And then added a little bit of the ultramarine for the beaks and the feet. You can see how hard he's working to get each and every one of those seeds off of the blades of grass. They have to pull so hard to get it. I know it sounds like there's a duck close by, and at first I thought it might be the geese, but that actually is a catbird. And if you want to learn more about catbirds, I do have a painting of a catbird in my Fana playlist. I could have ended the painting right here, but I decided to add that hydrangea bush and a little bit of background to add depth to this painting. I wanted to remind myself where this was and make it sort of a momentum of this family visiting my yard for future reference. I have so many animals that visit my yard, and if you know me, and some of you may be new to my channel, some of you are familiar with my story, I have had so many animals visit my yard. It's just endless, and I'm always amazed, and I'm so blessed to have such a variety of visitors, and I'm not sure why they feel comfortable coming into this yard, but I'm thankful. So I added some cobalt blue for the flowers and put in a touch of Windsor violet, and then added the leaves in sap green and perylene green to give it depth and some shadows. It is definitely a loose hydrangea bush because it's off in the distance and we're not looking at the details. We're just implying that that hydrangea bush was there. I'm using a sap green by Winsor Newton. It has a little bit more yellow in it. Look at how cute they are. And you can see as they get closer how they pull off the seeds from each blade of grass. I was surprised that their parents let them get this close to my patio. I'm pretty sure this little guy is either the oldest or is just the biggest and in charge, because he seems to be the one that goes off on his own the most, and then the other two follow him. And as I finish up the background with just a light wash of sap green, I'll add some cascade green and cobalt green and perylene green.
Thank you for sharing your babies with us.
I'll also add a tree in that upper right-hand corner to kind of balance out the composition. And we'll say goodbye to our little family for now, but they'll be back. I'm using my liner brush to add some blades of grass because it's important to fill those tummies. Make sure your grass is moving in different directions, just like real grass. I use different colors as well. I'm using sap green, perylene green. I even used cascade green. I wanted to add some splatter as well to give the grass some more realism. So I covered up the geese, both the adults and the goslings, with a paper towel. And then I soaked my brush with perylene green and cascade green. And I used another brush just to gently tap on the areas of the grass where I felt it would look. Then I'll use just the shape of my brush to imply leaves in the tree in the upper right-hand corner. I used a wash of sap green and cascade green just to imply the leaves. Nothing more complicated than that. And that's it. We'll take off the tape. I love the nice clean edges at the end. Here's my process before I start a painting. I always have a clean desk. I have all my supplies. I try to keep a clean palette. Look at that. Nice and clean and tidy, ready for my next painting. I've been wanting to paint the family of geese for about 2 weeks, and I've been waiting for the perfect moment. And this morning I had planned on painting the geese. I set up my desk, I had my supplies, and as I'm setting everything up, I have my paper ready, I have clean water, my pencils ready, I'm choosing my brushes, and I'm really thinking about the composition of the geese that I'm going to paint. I look out my window right here, and guess who I saw? Now, they haven't been up into my yard for about a week and a half. And look, they're so grown up. The parents were so close. They looked comfortable. They were coming even closer. And look how tall the goslings are. I'm not sure if they're still called goslings at this point. Someone in comments can share with me. And I'm not even sure there's still grass seeds for them to eat. But I'm so thankful that they still feel safe and they choose my yard to spend time together as a family. My dog just scared them away at the window, and off into the woods they go. The palette is messy, the water is murky, the process is beautifully chaotic, but in the end, all that beautiful mess transforms into a quiet piece of the living world captured right here on the page, and I thank you for joining me today. Until the next time, bye-bye.